What's up, guys? Welcome back to Twig's Change Project. I apologize for the lack of recent uploads. It's been, frankly, a while since I've really been able to get a rhythm going, but I actually came across a really interesting video called What Makes a Real Man from Jubilee. So today, I'm gonna be reacting to parts of it and giving basically my opinions. The thing, the thing is, we've already have a couple of points in the video. I'm already through a bit of it. The part I want to focus on is are are depressed men weak? Because that's really like the field that I feel most comfortable in, like being an expert. But if you want to hear my thoughts on the other sections of the video, wait until the end and we're gonna go through the compromise section of all of the different ones. But for today, we're just going to do the full version of this one part.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Anthony. We didn't find a middle ground in that question, but we're going to move on
I,
to
I
our
kind of
next
need
question,
captions,
which
y'all,
is,
because
are depressed men weak?
as
I
you
would
can
definitely
probably
say that depressed
imagine,
men are weak. I was heavily depressed. I'm a cancer survivor. And with that
ooh,
came clinical depression,
yeah, I need
anxiety
to
disorder
be
that
able to
gave up a
hear it
life I didn't
because,
want to live. And
but
that's
also
because
still
I
be
was
able to
weak.
have me
Coming out of that,
audible
I'm
over.
stronger than ever before.
Bless you for that, brother. You got through that. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, the
Now, I'm gonna say my opinion in a little bit, but let's hear what these guys have to say first.
depression part of it is a weak mindset.
Right, yeah.
So that is weak.
Absolutely.
Like when your family member dies, like you
Yeah,
definitely have
you should
times,
be sad,
but like you
right.
shouldn't like label
Yeah.
yourself as I'm a depressed person.
Point.
It's like I'm going through like a sad state right now. Like it's tough times, but you gotta pull through it, and that's what we all agree on. Is that being strong means coming out of that,
Right.
And not like because like killing yourself is the weakest shit to do.
That type of sentiment saying that like men who have depression are weak leads to men killing themselves. So I
Yes.
I want to push back.
Yes, actually, that's a great point. I love that from Oliver. Like, personally, what I think about this statement is saying that someone is weak because of something largely outside of their control is bullshit, frankly. Like, I'm sorry to be so blunt, but the thing is, going through this kind of mental problem is real tough. And I think that being able to seek help and work through it is one of the strongest things anyone can do, not just a man. Like, honestly, I would extend this conversation to literally everybody. I can understand the perspective that someone is weak while they're depressed because they feel weak, but as long as you're working through it, like, it's probably not a bad thing. You're just going through a tough time. Everyone goes through tough times. It's just some tough times are a little bit tougher than others, you know? Mental health is like a real concern. You wouldn't say like someone's weak because you they broke their leg or something. Mental health is just as important as physical health, y'all. And I know like as a psychology student, I might be a little bit biased, but just hang hang with me here. Stick with me. Let's see the rest of this.
Against that, there are so many studies that show that men who hold those types of views are more than 2 times as likely to kill themselves. So I would
Yeah.
like I am like okay, well,
Yeah, that's correct.
Both sides will agree, yes, being depressed is weak, but they're going to say it's okay to be weak. And I think that we should say it's not okay to be weak. Because as men, as a traditional men, it's our job to be strong even when we feel weak.
I don't agree with that.
That needs to be said. Anyway, I think we should.
I don't agree with that at all. I am a gay man, and my experiences within the gay
Oh,
community.
what? We have a traditional gay man here. I would love to hear him come up and speak. Because this is a very unique perspective. I was wondering if they would have like a Christian progressive man or like an LGBTQ plus traditional man as well on these, just like for a little bit of diversification within the two pools. I would love to see this guy come up and speak and see what he means and kind of what his views are on this topic.
And the depression that I've gone through is a completely different perspective from a straight perspective. But my ability to fight through that and to stand and the things that I've overcome.
Yes, yes.
I've struggled with depression myself. I have ADHD, I'm neurodivergent, and that does predispose you to depression, anxiety, and other things. Despite that, I don't feel weak. I was a former
I love
top cop. I
what
was the
Michael
youngest
had to
cop in
say
my
there.
state. I teach women how to beat up dirtbag men.
That's
So
like
I
exactly
don't feel
how I
weak
feel.
despite having those struggles with depression and anxiety.
It causes men to have this complex that if they aren't enough for their family, if they're not enough for themselves, then who are they going
Yeah.
to be enough for? Why are they even here?
Bettering yourself is strength
So you
incarnate.
could be depressed, but you still go through life. Like if you're just laying in bed all day, then yeah, I would say you're probably weak. But coming from like a biblical standpoint, it says that the righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. You will fall, and so that's okay, but get back
Yeah.
up. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing. Like even if you are a Christian, which personally I am, but I'm not the kind of Christian that lacks critical thinking skills. But like I if I was in this debate, I would be on the progressive side probably, even though I'm wearing a red shirt. This has no correlation with the video. The thing is, we're destined to have tough times. In my opinion, it's what you do to overcome them that defines you. It's not the tough times themselves that make you weak. And by the way, I'm not saying that nobody is
We
weak.
have one who studied it, is very intellectual about it, and is very
But
passionate
it's just the
about this
people
case.
who
And
have
we have
tough
other story where
times
this
and
person is
give up because
traditionally
of
gone
it.
through a lot of
That's
masculine things, showing
being
their
weak.
masculinity, and very much so gives that example of depression does not make you weak.
Chad, raise your hand. Oliver?
Oh, Chad, the neurodivergent guy. I think he's gonna be good for this. For sure, for
We're still
sure.
working it out. We're so good at this. Thank you. If only we could win elections like this.
All right, both
If
sides
only we
have
could win elections
speakers,
like
so let's bring
this.
forward Alex.
So true. So true.
And Oliver.
Honestly, I have like a whole rant about this whole thing where I think that the whole like liberal outlook on how to approach an election, we're not nearly aggressive enough. We should start calling conservatives weird more. Like we should do the same things kind of that conservatives do in the sense that like we need a strong, powerful leader that says like these things are not okay, you know? It's not the people that aren't okay. It's like these ideas are weird and we need to change them rather than trying to compromise on everything because that's how you lose to someone who's more charismatic and claims to have a stronger position in the debate, a more aggressive position. We need to reclaim that aggressive position, if that makes any sense.
All right, so the question is, are depressed men weak? I'm gonna let you guys see if you can come to a middle ground statement. You've got 8 minutes. Go for it.
I'll let you go.
Okay, sure, yeah. So, I'm coming from the perspective that I don't think that depressed men are weak. I think that depression is something that needs to be taken very seriously, and I think that statements like depressed men are weak are exactly the kind of rhetoric that perpetuates the problem, that leads to people being stuck, including myself, experienced with depression, being stuck in this type of rut that you can't get out of. And the moment that I kind of like acknowledged to myself what other people were telling me, but I was really like, oh my God, am I a weak man? Am I, somehow lacking in some sort of way? The moment I, put that aside and just was like, no, depression is a mental illness. Once I, got past that and, got the help that I needed, it was really the moment that I started to emerge from that.
Now,
So
once you got the help, that's strength.
Part of the problem and something that
that's strength incarnate. Great job.
Staying in a state of depression, I would consider that weak, right? Depression in and of itself isn't weak, but when you label yourself as a depressed person, or you let that win you over. That is weakness.
So I would disagree because I think it's important to define problems as what they are. We don't solve cancer by not calling it cancer. We acknowledge that a problem exists, and how we respond to that is very important. But I don't think saying we shouldn't call people depressed because...
This is a great way to illustrate this problem, honestly, because cancer is like an issue with physical health. And he's right, we don't address cancer like we address depression at all. We take cancer very seriously as a society. I think both liberal and conservative people can agree with that.
then they'll know that they're depressed or that they'll rot in that sort of state.
No, but I'm saying like labeling yourself as a depressed person, like saying that is part of my identity. If an athlete is injured in that second, I think he's weaker than he normally is. That doesn't mean he's weak overall, but in that second, yeah.
Is it weak to say that he's injured? Is it weak for him to claim, I am currently injured? I want to get better, but I'm currently injured.
No, but he's weaker.
For sure, people are definitely in a weaker headspace. But I think, and maybe
I actually disagree with this statement entirely. If someone says that they're injured and they want to get better, and they're taking steps to get better, or they're at least trying to figure out the steps to get better, they're not weak. I think the traditional guy here is arguing that labeling yourself as depressed is inherently a form of weakness, which honestly I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I would say I would say a lot of the times people who say that they're depressed aren't actually depressed. Like I could say, like, oh, I feel like very depressed, but I don't have depression. And that's just like an emotional state of like feeling really sad, you know? So really, what it seems like is that he's arguing that expressing your emotions is weak. And honestly, that's exactly like how traditional men think. So, you know, we're gonna circle back to that problem. I don't think that expressing your emotion is weak. Some people do.
Onto this idea that aren't correct. So when I hear the claim, men who are depressed are weak, I think of, oh, they're less manly. They need to get over it. They need to power through and grit. And it's I heard this from someone who was over there from your side. It's a weak mindset. It's a choice type of thing. And I reject that because it is a clinical diagnosis that people receive when they are depressed.
We all go through states of depression. I think no one here would argue that.
That's such an uneducated thing to say. Not everyone has clinical depression at some point. A lot of people do. But saying that is disrespecting people who are actually depressed.
You're never going to be in a state of depression, right? Things happen where you do feel depressed.
There's depression and then there's people who describe themselves as being depressed. I think it's important to separate those two because you can feel sad.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna turn captions off so that y'all can read this. There's like some fact checks that go on that are pretty unbiased. They're just based on research, and they're pretty helpful for anyone who watches these kinds of videos.
Everyone feels sad. Everyone has mood changes. Depression is clearly defined as persistent, like feeling bad regardless of the things that are going on in your life, even when things are going well.
Right, but I don't think the prompt was saying that depression makes you less of a man. Because I'm weaker, right? Sure. I'm in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
A squirrel could beat me in an arm wrestling match, right? I don't think anyone here would say I'm less of a man.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, and I'm glad that those connotations are not present in this conversation.
But my stance is you got to keep on moving. Like you just have to, and you might have to take medication. I'm not against it. I'm pretty sure some people on my side are gonna be against taking medication. But
I'm glad they're not up here.
You have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, that's just
most of the times is
weird.
Okay. They say that it's okay to ride.
That's just uneducated to say you're against taking
medication. Some subsets of the internet that you'll find, but I think most people, I think the way we treat mental illness is it's really hard for us to grapple with it because it's not visual. There's this idea that when you break your arm, everyone comes to sign your cast. But when you say you're depressed, they don't know what to do and run the other direction. And I think it's really important to break that type of stigma that mental illness illness is a real thing. I'm not sure. I don't want to
Yeah,
speculate. I'm sure there are some people
great
who don't
point.
really think it's a real thing. Oh, you just need to get over yourself. You need to work harder. Back in my day, we just said that we were, sad and we pushed through.
Well, we see it in TV, so we see it
Back in my day, when we were sad, we went and chopped trees down and built a log cabins.
all the time, all over the place, where it's like, hey, I can't get up out of bed today. Oh, you know what? Mental health day. I don't disagree, but I think we are.
I can't get out. Everyone feels like that sometimes. But that's not always clinical depression. Feeling sad and unmotivated, like burnout and depression, are two very, very different things, and they have to be approached differently.
Society letting that be a norm and letting that be
Mm-hmm.
okay, which I don't think it should be necessarily all the time. Because there's
agreed.
times where you have to get something done
Mm-hmm.
and you can't just say like, hey, I'm gonna take a mental health day. Parents, I'm not a parent, but I'm pretty sure parents are here. They are depressed. They have to care for their kids.
Yes. And I
The
think you and
mental
I,
health day thing is actually like so real. I believe in the mental health day. Like one day every year, just like don't go to school. Focus on mental wellness. Obviously, there's potential for it to be abused, but if you can do it, by all means, do it. I'm probably going to do it this semester of my college as well at some point.
both agree that like it's irresponsible if you're a parent or something of that nature to neglect your responsibilities because of mental illness. However, I do think it's very much the case that mental illness can be debilitating, can be crippling.
So weakness.
Yeah. Well, I guess
So
fine.
weak,
Okay, fine. Yeah, sure. Then,
So
then you're defining
weakness.
weakness in such a way that it has no
I don't like.
connotation
I
behind.
don't like the term weakness. Like saying that someone is weak is just like it doesn't get anybody anywhere. It's just a way to say I'm better than you. Snap out of it. I'm gonna just like make you feel bad about yourself. You know.
If you want to say someone who is depressed is in a weaker mental state because they're not able to function as well, then I guess
Sure.
we agree. But that doesn't really get to any of the societal implications
Right,
where
and
there
I
might
think-
be some disagreement between you and me as
And
a
I think we've
traditional
done that, but I
progressive
think
man.
we could agree.
Yeah, I
that
think the
depression
fundamental issue that they're talking about here actually is not necessarily depression, it's expression of emotion. An expression of emotion is not weakness. It's honestly strength. Holding something in a lot of ways, that's a little bit less impressive. Oh, yo, hi, roommate.
Hello.
You get an appearance on Twig's Change Project.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. Yeah, J-Rom, do you think that depressed people are weak?
Do I think people are weak?
Just out of the blue. What do you think about that?
You know, I've known a lot of weak people and a lot of depressed people. I don't know if that's
You see, so it's often helpful to get like different perspectives on these kinds of things, for y'all viewers watching. So I'm just glad that J-Rom here was willing to share his opinion, and he ultimately seems to agree with me, but not for the reason that I agree with it. He just has some interesting friends.
weakness then.
Okay, so I would agree with your literal statement. The problem is
Right.
there are a lot of connotations. When you say something's weak, it's like, oh, it should be looked down upon. That person
Yeah.
is doing something that.
No, because I'm weak, so I don't want to be looked down upon.
I agree, and I'm very glad. But I think if someone were to like look at you, oh yeah, you're weak. That would be, but it wouldn't just be a literal factual statement about the nature of the world as it exists.
Yeah.
It would be a normative judgment upon you. as a
This
person.
Oliver guy is actually really getting to the point. I quite like it.
In many cases, if someone calls disabled people weak, would you just be like, yeah, we are, yeah, we are? Or would
Nope.
you be like, you're kind of an asshole, man?
It depends a lot on context.
Allergies.
I agree with you.
Hay
But,
fever season, y'all.
Well, then we would have to take
Sometimes my nose
everyone's
runs.
opinion on it and stuff
Of
like
course.
that.
Just we're up on time, so I want to push you guys towards.
All right, let's see if they agree. The funny
and-
thing is, in these middle grounds, they never agree. I'm gonna turn off captions so y'all can read this. They never agree on anything. But I think there might be a way for them to agree here where it's like, sure, by the literal definition of weakness, the conservatives are right. It's just that saying that someone is weak is counterproductive to them actually getting out of the state of weakness.
And just to reiterate the question, it was, are depressed men weak?
I'll let you.
Sure. So here's,
Ma-
I guess, and this is why I would say I
Also,
don't want to use the word weak.
in
The
the
use of the
male
word men in the
standpoint,
phrase makes it very gendered. If it was just are depressed people weak, then maybe I'd give a little more credence to this idea that we're just talking about descriptively what is factually the case. But I think when you insert men in there, there's this idea that depressed men are weak because men shouldn't be weak. Men shouldn't be burdened by their emotions or burdened by illness.
yeah. Oh, he's getting it. He's getting to exactly what I was talking about. He's getting to the fact that expressing your emotions as a man is not a bad thing. Finally. Oh my gosh.
It's just, something they have to power through. So because of that, here's the middle ground that I guess I would propose to you, and you're welcome to respond to me on this. Depression does not inherently make someone weak. Men are not inherently weak because they're depressed. However, if you let that consume you entirely and you shackle other responsibilities, or you claim that you have no responsibility for your own mental illness. Oh yeah, I'm mentally ill, therefore I can tweet anti-Semitic things all over the internet. I'm not talking about anyone in particular.
That's real.
But so sorry about that. But regardless, so that's kind of the middle ground I would propose. I don't know if that's too long, but
Okay, can we agree on the middle ground that if you're a man and you allow your depression to win you over, then you're weak?
I allow you to win you over. I think there's a lot of different things that are going on there. I also would kind of want to, if possible, DJ.
If you allow your depression to win you over, honestly, I would agree with that statement. Because the thing is, you kind of have to seek help. That's the thing. If you're not seeking help, then you're not doing it right. The thing is, I guess a lot of the times people who are depressed don't want to seek help, so there's a lot of nuance there. So there's problems with the statement being too broad, and there's ways that it could be wrong, but I think in general, I would agree with that. I would just put the asterisk of like, as long as as long as you're depressed, if you're trying to seek help and get out of your depression, you are not weak. I think that's the statement I would propose.
Gender that idea. If anyone,
We're on a gendered episode.
well, we are. You're right. You're right. You're right that we are. You are correct that we are. However, I think it is true because men exist, and because men exist, women also exist. Women don't just not exist because we are in a room with very
but
few
we're
of them.
not talking about women.
This guy should like be a professor at Harvard. He just proposed the most radical idea ever. Men exist, so women exist. Oh my god. That's so crazy.
This instance.
I don't think that's necessarily the case because we live in a society that is inherently gendered. So
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
But this episode.
Of course.
Okay, so Alex, what would your statement be if you want to give us a draft?
A middle ground, I would say, if you succumb to your depression, then you are weak. If you allow your depression to take over your life and you don't seek help and you kind of just
Yes,
use
thank you for saying that. If you don't seek help, that's, I think, the part where we can start to entertain the conversation. Yeah, just Albert Boza.
use it as an excuse for your life or for your poor choices.
Using it as an excuse, sure. I understand that. The thing is, like, those kind of people are exactly the kinds that need help, you know? Not everyone just, like, has that dog in them to be like, I hate this state of depression, I need to get help. It's like people who are addicted to drugs. A lot of the times they want to get out of it, but they don't know how, you know?
End up with a bullet in their head. Are they weak in your mind?
I would say so, yes.
You'd say they're weak. Men who kill themselves because of their depression are weak.
Yes.
And I think that exact idea is what leads more men to kill themselves.
Well, okay, so I don't, there's a strong
It's true.
disagreement there, and there's a lot to discuss there. But let's try and make our way back to what do you think is something that he would agree on? You know, so he said letting depression take over your life is not a good solution. So do you have like a counter?
Do you think it makes him? I'm just curious. Do you think it makes a man weak to seek medical remedies or to seek out treatment in that way?
No, I'm in a wheelchair right now. I have to see a doctor every 3
Sure.
months.
Okay.
So.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
If the pills are helping you in that, then yeah, go for it. If you need to get out of the woods, seek Christ, whatever it is that you need to do.
Okay.
Do that.
Yeah, and I would. I don't think I really disagree with any part of that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're landing on if a man is depressed, he should seek treatment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Men who are depressed should seek treatment.
Men should seek treatment.
Awesome.
All right.
We got an agreement, guys. Wait. We honestly need more. Like we need more people who are able to have civil conversations and agree with this. I actually thought this was a very good debate. Both men were able to present their points without disrespecting the other side. And like literally the statement that guy did, I think it was a little bit lopsided where like the progressive guy ki- kind of got the better end of the stick. It's just I like the fact that the word weak and weakness, they weren't used at all in that statement. Let's see what the other questions are. So, should it be socially acceptable for men to wear skirts?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, I don't see a problem with it, so I'm just gonna say yes. I don't have a good like compromise statement for this specific one, except who gives a fuck? Does society need more trad wives or girl bosses? This is actually a subject that I have a decently strong opinion on, where the issue here, it's not about gender, it's about everything being more expensive, forcing both parents to work. If we imagine a parallel universe where for the last 1,000 or so years, women were actually the ones who went out and worked, and the men were the ones who stayed at home, and then this situation were to happen again, and we were saying why can't the husband stay at home? It's because the husbands have to work now. So the issue isn't gender, the issue is economics. And when we get into that, it's like we would have to implement economic policy that makes it easier for families to live off of the income of a single parent. And at that point, you could say, once those policies are enacted, sure, women would be able to go back home if they wanted. It's just the issue is since the options are so limited for so many families, a lot of the times the women have to work because they have no choice. And like, as someone who largely agrees with most of the feminist movement, there's a lot of toxic femininity, but the idea that men and women should have equal rights and have equal opportunities, I have no issue with that. And honestly, the idea of like women shouldn't have to work if they don't want to, if they want to be like stay-at-home moms, then like sure, that we should probably make it easier for those women who were raised in a more traditional way and align with those traditional values to be able to be stay-at-home moms. Should men... Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Okay, you see, I haven't watched these parts of the video. I'll just give my opinion on the last thing. Should men spend their time watching the people? Simple, no, I think short answer, no. Long answer, it's so easy to access that it's hard for people to say no to it, if that makes sense. I think the traditional men are going to say no because they're Christian and because they consider lust a sin. And while that's valid, we're not addressing the issue, which is the accessibility of the free P-word. Should men be the leader in romantic relationships? This is interesting, because in a lot of cases, men are the ones who are more suited to be like the initiators of certain things in the relationship, but I think by narrowing it down to saying men, we're ignoring an entire group of people who engage in non-traditional relationships. So if we're going to just traditional, like, straight relationships between a man and a woman, I would say it depends. Often because of the whole, like, Me Too movement, men these days can be scared to, like, initiate physical contact, and, like, consent is really important. So I would say it just depends on the personalities, and the number one most important issue in relationships is communication. Personally, I'm dating someone right now who has had, like, issues in the past with rushing to physical intimacy, so I'm respecting that. But the thing is, there's also the whole non-traditional relationships where it's like, if two women are dating, there's no man to lead it, so just they also need to have the same, like, open communication. The whole, like, pieces of relationship advice, that just goes for everybody. In order to build a strong foundation for a relationship, you have to have trust and you have to have communication. I'd say those things might even be more important than love itself. Because if you have love but not those two things, who's to say your partner isn't cheating on you? Who's to say that you don't secretly feel uncomfortable because your partner is touching you when you don't want them to, you know? But is misandry more allowed than misogyny? What? Okay, guys, we're gonna have to Google something real quick.
No, because the general media consensus at least.
What is misandry? I've never actually heard this term before. So it's prejudice against men. Alright, that's fair. And yeah, we have well, the men's rights movement is very strange. I don't want to get into it, but we'll just look at the question. Is misandry more allowed than misogyny? Yeah. Hey, so this is future editing twig talking. After further research on this topic, I have come to the conclusion that misandry doesn't really exist in a capacity that's too harmful to men in most cases, whereas misogyny is so ingrained in our society that you often can't tell that someone is being misogynistic. So on that note, I would say misogyny. And then, oh no, is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? Oh my gosh, this is a layered statement. And I would say I disagree with most of it. But here's my take, right? Elon Musk is a very successful man. But does success always equal happiness? This man has been married like so many times. He's created a lot of successful companies. But for what? What really makes him go in life? Why does he keep doing this, and will he ever be satisfied? I personally would say he's just not a good role model in general. But I think Elon Musk is like a classic example of like, so hey, you have all this success, but are you ever gonna use it? Are you ever gonna find a way to do meaningful things with that success? Or are you gonna form an oligarchy with the rest of the billionaires?